Spaghetti Bolognese sauce, I love it. It's great for our family feed. You get a lasagna out of it. We've got sauce left over. Okay, so we've got 500 grams of minced meat. Today I'm using a beef mince. It was on special. You can use pork, turkey mince. 1/2 cups of beef stock. Stock cube, 1/2 cups of boiling water. We've got some tomato paste, about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, an onion, an apple, a couple of cloves of garlic, about 800 grams, half a dozen tomatoes, about 250 grams of mushrooms, handful of fresh parsley, handful of basil and some dried oregano. What I'm going to do now is we're going to do some prep and then we're going to get on to cook. What I love about the apple is that the average quick easy pasta sauce that you buy at the supermarket has about 10 grams of 10 teaspoons of processed sugar. First of all, the garlic. We've got a couple of cloves here. The best thing to do, knife on, hand over, give it a smash. Knife on, give it a smash. We can peel all that skin off, much better than the garlic in a jar. Nice and fresh. Oh, you can smell it as it seeps out. Now, I'm just going to chop that up, a little bit rough, a little bit fine, making sure that my fingers are not anywhere near that blade, they're curled in. Next is the onion. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock the root part off and then I'm going to just cut it in half. With the blade of the knife, I'm not cutting, I'm just peeling. So it's just an easy way, I find anyway, to peel an onion, get that skin off. So I'm not cutting through, I'm just grabbing it and peeling it off. Okay, from here, either way, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice through. Nice and fine. Okay, so with the tomatoes, I'm just going to cut them into quarters, give them another slice down the middle, 1, 2, 3, and nicely done. Sort of like a bit chunky. But I love a chunky tomato through the bolognese. Much better than that cheap, cheap pasta sauce. Slicing the mushrooms are an awkward thing to slice. I knock the end off, so we've got a nice flat surface, and then it's just made a chop and through. Knock the end off, so we've got a nice surface, chop, So just with a little knife, cut out the pip. So now we're all prepped, we can start the cooking. Okay, so we need a splash of oil. I use a sunflower oil. A lot of people use olive oil, but if you're looking for a cheap oil, sunflower oil gives you the health benefits, and it's a nice flavour to cook with, and probably a quarter of the price of an olive oil. So over a low heat, we don't want it too high because we don't want to burn the onions. Put in the onions, just want to like soften them up, saute them a bit, and the garlic. Mix it around a bit. Now what we're going to do is going to let that'll probably take anywhere 5 minutes to 10 minutes depending on your heat and the thickness of your pan. But what we're going to do is we're just going to wait until that sautés through. So just give it a little bit of a stir every now and then so it's not going to stick to the pan. Nice low heat, coming up nicely. And the onions look about done. They've got a bit of colour about them. They're not burnt. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn up the heat slightly to about medium to high, because what I want to do is I want to brown off the meat. We're going to add the minced meat in a couple of batches because we don't like to have clunky sort of big chunks. Break it up. And add a bit more. So just making sure that you're getting all of those big clumps all broken up. And the last of the meat. What I'm going to add in now is the dried oregano. So I'm really looking for a few pinches. I'm not putting all of this in because dried herbs have a lovely strong flavour. You don't need as much as if you've got fresh herbs. Okay, add our tomato paste, so about 3 big big spoonfuls, one for extra luck. And what I want to do is just mix that around till it's all coated and red. Nice. Okay, add in our tomatoes. Mightn't look like a lot of tomatoes, but what we're wanting to do is to get all of the juices, and they'll condense down. It's hard when you're used to, say, buying a can of tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, and you put them in. You can make the same thing, say, with 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, but I just think that the flavour from the fresh tomatoes is just so much more more natural and nice. Okay, in with the mushrooms. You can break them up a little bit if you want. I mean, that's all personal preference as to how chunky you want your mushrooms. But remember, they will reduce down in size. The good thing about mushrooms in something like a bolognese is they're like a sponge. They'll just soak up all of the saucy flavour. So just mix them through. Now, as you can see, it's pretty dry because the tomatoes juices haven't really come into it yet. But that'll happen. Adding in our stock just to give it that liquid boost and that beef flavour. Getting that last little bit out. Okay, we're going to add in our nice fresh basil. Now I'm going to add in the diced up apple, just to give it that sweetness, much more natural than the 10 teaspoons of sugar that you would get in your purchased bolognese sauce. Add in the parsley. Give that a stir through. A couple of 2 pinches of some pepper. Couple of pinches of salt. Now you can see that the liquid, it's not as dry as it was before, and that's just going to continue to liquefy. What we're going to do, turn the heat down. We just want a nice slow simmer. We've got a few bubbles. Turn the heat down to a simmer. We want just a few bubbles there coming away, and that's just going to nicely cook now. Pop the lid on. About 30 minutes, let it simmer, stew away, we'll check it then. Well, it's been about 30 minutes and the bolognese is just booming and with flavour and oh, it smells delicious. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take that off the stove, off the heat. I've brought 2 litres of water to boil. Now I'm going to add the dry pasta. I work on about 50 grams of dry pasta per person, give or take. So I'm going to just add the spaghetti. Now what that'll do is the long strands, they'll just eventually sit down, and then we're going to cook that for around about 50 minutes, and then we'll test it and see how it goes. Just give it a little bit of a stir just so it doesn't stick and clump together. Okay, so that's been cooking now for about 15 minutes, and as you can see, the colouring on the ends is starting to go a bit white. That's a bit of an indication that it's cooked. All you need to do is just give it a bit of a test. Nice. You don't want it too chewy. If it's undercooked, it'll be too chewy, and if it's overcooked, it'll be too claggy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drain that, and then we're ready to serve. So I've strained the pasta, now it's time to dish up. Couple of good helpings of scoops.
What?
Bit of cheese on top. Now you can Parmesan cheese is lovely, but the cheaper tasty cheese is a better alternative if you're trying to save $1. Garlic bread's ready. Look at this.